Alright, good morning YouTube. It is Nick with NK Landscaping again as usual. So today we got a little bit of a different video. We've done it before. We're going to do some maintenance and repair on the old KX33 behind me. Except it's not the Kubota that we're having trouble with. It's actually the Steelwrist for once. So I noticed this season that the gripper would lose slight grip strength. So if I was picking up a rock or something, or the buckets, after releasing the grab function for the gripper here, within maybe 3 to 4 seconds it would lose enough pressure on like a rock to drop it. That hadn't been happening last year, and like I said, this thing's got about, this thing's got about 600 hours on the X04 tilt rotator itself. So I went in the handy dandy old North American tilt rotator group on Facebook. I just asked the question on if anybody had experienced this at all. You know, I wasn't really too concerned about it. You know, I just wanted to see if people had a remedy or a known issue. And I'm not even kidding you, immediately Christian Yanes from Steelwrist liked the post, and then someone commented, Jonathan Von Noring from Steelwrist commented, told me to reach out to him, and I was talking to him probably about 10 to 15 minutes after I made the post. So we went through some diagnostics, and I think what we've ended up coming to the conclusion is that this right side gripper cylinder is internally leaking. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the machine up. I'm gonna show you exactly the diagnostic that I ran through to figure out this issue. Steelwrist has already sent me out a brand new replacement cylinder under warranty. So we're gonna get this thing fixed in this video, and you're gonna watch how it's done. So let's give you a demo of what was actually happening. All right, so I'm gonna show you how we're gonna test for this issue. So like I explained, we're having trouble with the gripper losing grip strength. So we know it's isolated to the gripper itself. This does not affect any other function of the Steelwrist. So the tilt and rotate do not slip at all or leak down. So I'll show you how I came up with to test this to see which cylinder it was. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to test one gripper at a time. So I'm going to attempt to shut the right side gripper. It's basically going to be the one on the left side because I have the whole gripper assembly spun around. So I'm going to push this gripper up against the bucket, and I'm going to close the gripper slowly. So I'm just folding in that right side gripper. Okay. So now that that's closed, the right side gripper, we're going to be testing the left side leak down. So I'll show you how to do that right here. So we're gonna go ahead. I got my bucket here. We don't need a whole lot of weight to do this, but I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna pick up this bucket. This is just using the left side gripper. It's a little tricky because of the angle that I'm at. I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna tighten up the grip on that left side cylinder so it's not sitting on the stops. And we're gonna sit here and we're gonna wait. I have the other camera recording, and So I have not touched, I'm hands off everything on the machine. We just have the bucket sitting there. The controls are still in the functional position. I have the safety lock down. The auxiliaries are still on, so the machine still has full flow to the Steelwrist assembly. I'm going to let it sit. So the other camera's recording. You should be able to see whether or not this is going to slowly fall down over the course of, say, a few minutes. So we'll let it sit, and then we'll come back and we'll do this chest test to the other side, and that will show us whether or not we have a cylinder that is leaking down internally. Alright, so that was about 2 minutes on the left side gripper. So that's the one that I don't believe to be leaking. So now we'll do that same test, but to the right side gripper. So I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to shut the left side here. So I'm going to curl up on that gripper just a little bit, and now we're going to let this thing sit here for another 2 minutes just to mimic the other one. And I believe on the camera you should be able to see the slow amount of seep that we're getting. So same exact thing, I'm not touching the controls, safety lever is down, auxiliaries are on, machine has returned to an idle. So nothing has changed as far as the controls go. The only thing that has changed is we are now holding the bucket with the right side of the gripper. Alright, there's our 2 minutes exactly. Hopefully you could have seen that. I saw it here in person. So I'm probably going to play this back on a slight time lapse for you so you can really see it happening. But that proves that our right side gripper cylinder is leaking internally, and that it doesn't have to do with the solenoid spool valves. Those will hold pressure because one of them is working and they're both on the same circuit. So we know that we have an internal cylinder leak. We have the part. Now let's go fix it. Alright, so we have the excavator here in my garage. I cannot fit my excavator in my garage, so we stuck the arm through the door. I have the arm and dipper supported by this jack stand right in the center of the Steelwrist assembly. And like I said, we're going to be working on that right side. So it looks pretty straightforward. I'm going to get my tools together, but the first thing I want to do is bleed any pressure out of that system. So to do that, we're going to come here, we're going to key on, safety arm down, we're going to turn on the auxiliaries without the machine running, and the gripper control is this rocker switch right here. I'm rolling that back and forth. I can hear the solenoid spool opening and closing. So we have now released the pressure. I'm going to roll this, that's my tilt. This is my rotate. So all those have been rolled. We can shut the machine off, and we should have no residual pressure in that system. We're still gonna have to put down some trays and everything, but let me get together my tools and we'll start figuring out how to get this apart. Alright, so remember how I said we relieve that pressure? That's gonna allow these to move back and forth. I also did not fully extend the gripper, so I can move them back and forth just in case we need it. Looks like the only tools we're going to need at the moment, 8mm hex and a set of snap ring pliers. So I have that right here. little channel lock snap ring pliers, and a nice 8mm hex. Here's our new cylinder. I haven't even opened that. Let's take that guard off and see what we can find. Alright, I'm going to start here with the hexes, Allen keys, whatever you want to call them. We got 4 of them. I'm going to break them loose. Missing the one. Or I'm missing it, not it's missing off the steel wrist. Get these taken out. So 2 washers on here. They're both like these little lock type washers with ridges. So 4 bolts out. Alright, so that guard. Now pivots. Looks like we're going to have to take out the snap ring on top of this pin. The pin will most likely then drop out and this whole guard will be able to be removed. Alright. So this is an exterior snap ring, so we're going to open it outwards. Pop it right off. And that pin should just slide right out the bottom. So now we know the lip side of this pin is going to go down. Okay, now we should be able to slide this out of the way. Look at that. The whole piston comes off with that. So we now have this hydraulic line for my auxiliary hydraulics that we may have to deal with. Oh, maybe not. The cover's just going to end up sliding right off of here. There we go. Out of the way. Something to keep in mind. We have this spacer here. I'm not sure if that came off the top or the bottom. Looks like it was on the bottom, but we will find out. So let's get to the next step. So after a little bit of cleanup here, basically the way this is assembled, this cylinder sits right up against the mounting bracket. Then this brass bushing goes on the bottom between this mount and the cylinder there. So it looks like all we have left to do, there's 1 more circlip up here, 2 hydraulic lines. We should be able to swap everything out very simply. Alright, we're going to get this cylinder opened up here, the new one, just to make sure everything looks right and that we have the right one. Probably should have done this first, but I trust that Steelwrist knows exactly what they're sending us. Look at that. So that's a beautiful, brand new cylinder, straight from Steelwrist. Looks really nice. New grease fittings already installed. Awesome. Little protectors in the bushing. So that looks good. Alright, I'm just going to throw a red zip tie on this outer hydraulic line so we know that that goes towards the outside. But we're going to pop this other circlip right out of here. That should allow us to remove the cylinder. Get that in there. A little tricky. These channel lock pliers are okay, but I have a bit of wiggle room. I just launched that circlip across the room. I was going to say watch out for that. And here it is. Didn't go too far, thankfully. Okay, so that's out of the way. Same thing, drops out from the top down. It's lipped, so it can only go in one way. And it is a shorter pin, so you can't even mix them up. They make it too easy. So that pulls out of place. You can let that dangle. Now the gripper arm moves freely. Feels really nice in there. Keep your machines greased and everything will feel really nice. It doesn't look like there are any shims or spacers. So all that's left to do is swap these hydraulic lines to the new cylinder and get everything reinstalled. Alright, I've kind of cleaned everything up on the gripper finger side. We got the new cylinder. I'm going to pull out these little protective dust caps here. We don't want those. So you can see this bushing locked in here by a circlip. on just the one side. So to help us out, we're going to go ahead and put this in place. Get that pin back through there. Okay, that'll hold this cylinder in place. We got to take some plastic caps out of here to switch the hydraulic lines over. So these hydraulic lines, there's a fitting that screws into the cylinder here. So we're going to have to take the hydraulic line off of the cylinder, and then we're going to have to take out the fittings in the cylinder to put into our new location on the new cylinder here. Before I forget, might as well put that circlip back in. We don't want to forget that and then have that falling out. So hold it up from the bottom, get that snapped right on top, and make sure it seats. Got an affirmative click there. We are in place. That's not going anywhere. So now we can take these hydraulic lines off. Alright, I just hit both of these fittings with some brake cleaner and compressed air just to clean them up. And now it's just 14mm wrenches here. I'm going to get one on the fitting and one on the line. Break those apart. Not tight at all. I do have my pan under here. I'm just using a concrete mixing tub. Really good, really cheap pan. See if we get any fluid leaking out. Steelwrist uses these funny O-ring type fittings. I know it's not going to come through on the GoPro well. Something a little weird, but works. It is hard to find if you do have a cylinder break a line or something. These are kind of funny to find. I'm going to get a pry bar real quick just so I can hold that cylinder while I break loose that fitting. Alright, pry bar in place, open another wrench. There we go. Just realized I was pulling down on that line. We're not going to want to do that. That's not good for the line. Get that unscrewed. Okay, so we got another O-ring there. I'm going to go ahead and reuse these, but we definitely want to be careful of that line kinking there. I gotta be careful as I let it hang from it. But that's gonna get screwed into the new cylinder. Let me take this other one out here. Alright, old cylinder's out. Changing up to a 12mm now to take out these little plugs. I believe they're just plastic. Yep. We're going to get both of these removed. I did take the metal fittings that go in the cylinder. I cleaned them up, made sure the O-ring was in good shape, blew them out with some compressed air to make sure we're not going to contaminate this new cylinder. Everything was good. So, I'm going to do the same thing with the cylinder here. I'm going to grab some compressed air. Make sure those are blown out nice and clean. And now we can thread in our fittings, O-ring side towards the cylinder. Get that started. Get the other one started. Now, you want to be careful when you get these close that O-ring seats nice and good. Doesn't, you know, get pinched or anything. So we're going to go ahead, get those installed here. Sounds like we got a little thunderstorm rolling in. I miss every other wrench turn that I make here. These don't have to be super tight. They weren't in there super tight. So, just going to get them snugged up with the box end of the wrench. Probably going to have to stick that pry bar or something in there again just to get them a little snug. So I'll do that here. I'm going to leave this plastic protector in place while I put the pry bar in. just so we don't mar up that bushing. Just gonna give this a little bit of torque, nothing crazy. Alright, so those two little cylinder fittings are in place. So something that I just now recognized and saw right here on the tilt rotator itself. This is an X04 tilt rotator, but there's a little QR code you can scan that'll bring you right to the user manual. So I actually have a paper manual. I'm not following it just because this is a pretty simple swap. I'm not going crazy on torque on anything. I will check the manual to do a final torque on everything to see if it lists that. But I thought that was pretty cool that they put that right on the machine itself, so that, or right on the attachment itself, so that you can look that up quick and easily. Alright, we just gave the end of the fitting from the line here a quick wipe down. Remember we said the one with the red zip tie is going to go on the outside. I'm just going to get these loosely finger tight so they can still rotate. We still don't know the final resting location of everything. So everything, a quick little wipe down. Make sure there's no contamination. Those O-rings look good, no pinch marks or anything. Fitting on the cylinder, wipe down. And we will put these in place. I'm going to check back in my video real quick just to make sure I have that orientation proper. Then we can get this pin kind of put in place. That's a great thing about filming this. I had this wrong in the last video there. I flipped them so they are the way that they were supposed to be. We can now go ahead and pull out these little protective plastic pieces, and this cylinder is ready to get installed back in here. So remember, cylinder, no bushing or spacer, and then we're going to do on the bottom the brass spacer with the small side facing up, and then we somehow have to get all that in place and sandwiched between this cover. So let's try. So I guess I'm going to start by putting this in the cover so it sits on the bottom, and we're going to weasel our cylinder in place here. Okay, that fits in there. Slide that back. You kind of need 5 hands. Okay, everything is kind of in place here. We'll start our pin from the bottom. Like I said, you kind of need 5 hands. Alright, pin is through the brass bushing. Line up the cylinder. Oh, there it goes. Okay, pin is in place. Let's get that circlip in. Same deal. Try not to launch this across your garage like I did. You might not be as lucky. Okay. That is seated properly. Awesome. This side is done. You know what? It's not. I didn't tighten the hydraulic line. Smart me, huh? Guess we're gonna have to take it back apart. Don't make that mistake. Alright. We're gonna go ahead and snug these up. Doesn't have to be crazy again. Just gonna do this hand tight. Not applying all the torque I have in my hand to these fittings. I know a lot of people think, oh, your wrench is super long. Let me grab it by the end and put everything I've got into it. That's how you cause problems. So those are tight now. We're gonna do the same thing I just showed you. I'm gonna not have you suffer through that. So the lines are tight. So if you watch this video, don't be like me. Don't make that mistake. Go ahead and tighten those, and don't be launching washers off your bolts. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and get these bolts installed. This is a bit of a tight fit up here where they this guard slots into the actual frame of the tilt rotator. So we want to make sure we get that aligned so we're not putting our bolts in at a funny angle. Alright, we're going to go ahead and snug these up. Nothing too tight. Like I said, they were not very tight to begin with. There's 4 of them, so I'm going to get them all kind of bottomed out, and then we'll go around, I think, in a diagonal pattern, like an X pattern, kind of torque them down. So like I said, the manuals are available online. So I went online for the X04. This is also the same for the X06 and X07. We're going for the M8 screw. So that should be any of these M8 screws. It's a 12.9 grade. And they want 38 Newton meters, which comes out to about 28 foot-pounds. So I'm just going to hit those 4 bolts real quick, make sure they're tight. Then we can go about making sure everything operates properly. There's going to be some air in the lines. And then we're going to grease everything, since we did take everything out and wipe all the grease off. So quick torque. You know, you already watched me do this by hand. It looks like I've got everything at least to 28 foot-pounds. So we're good. We're fully torqued. Alright, we're going to test to make sure everything works. Auxiliaries on. I'm going to go ahead and pick this up off of the jack stand. We'll spin it around. So, once again, we were looking at that right side gripper cylinder. Like I said, there's going to be some air in the system, so we're going to run that back and forth a bit. Make sure we have no leaks. Everything seems to be operating correctly. Very nice. I'm going to shut both of those grippers. Take a little pressure off of there, and now we can grease everything. Alright, I'm not going to grease the whole machine just because it's going out on a job hopefully later this week, and I will grease it before then. We're just going to grease the 2 fittings here. Alright, I want to go over a little crazy on these just because they were basically dry. I really want to see that grease squirting out. There we go. So like I said, since those bushings were dry on that install, we want to make sure we get them nice and lubricated so they don't see any excessive wear. Alright guys, well, there's the old cylinder. We're going to keep this around. Steelwrist said we could keep it, so this will be a backup. Maybe I can have it rebuilt. Looks like the end does screw off, so a hydraulic shop could rebuild this if they can get the seals, which I think they can. But I'm going to go ahead and put this aside for now. I do need to take a picture of the serial number on there and send it back to Steelwrist, just so they know kind of what batch may have had a bad seal failure. But anyway, that was a really simple install. All in all, it's just a few tools. It doesn't take very much time at all. Very easy to work on this stuff. And to be honest, Steelwrist support was super fast, super friendly, super easy to deal with. They wanted to help. You know, they're not here to just sell you a tilt rotator and then once you have it, walk away. It was as easy as sending him my serial and model number there. Cylinder came in the mail within a few days, and then I switched it on my own. I'm super happy with Steelwrist itself. Like I said, that's the only issue we've had in 600 hours of use, aside from knocking this line off. But you could see this bracket is bent. I knocked this line right off one time, and it was strong enough to bend that bracket, so that was well deserving of a busted line. So nothing to blame on Steelwrist for that one. Otherwise, I've been very happy just in general with this machine, or the attachment, especially coupled with the KX33 here. I think it's a really good mix. So I'm gonna go test this out in the back, make sure everything is good. I know it will be, but awesome. So hopefully this wasn't too long of a video here. Hopefully that helps any of you with a Steelwrist that may have or have had an issue like this. Leave a comment down below. Maybe you've experienced this with Encon or Knox, or there's a bunch of different brands. The Cat ones, which are just rebranded Rototilt. Is it this easy? Is it easier? Is it very hard? So that was a quick repair. I'm happy it was that easy. Tell me if you like the repair videos. I know it's a little different, but the last one, my 1,000-hour service on the KX33 here, it seems to help people out. So I'm all for helping people out, showing them how to do things. I'm not a full maintenance and repair channel, but I have the means here to work on stuff. So better to show you than just to keep it all to myself. So thank you for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscription if you want. If you don't want to, that is perfectly fine with me too. I get it. I'll see you on the next one. Thank you for watching, guys. Did you really think I'd leave you without a test? So full fingers off the controls. Machine is back down to idle. This is where I'd have some real extreme problems. Picking up a rock, especially in this orientation, where you have a lot of weight hanging down, but not a lot of grip area, especially on a rock like this that's very flat and smooth. I'm just letting that thing sit right there, and we're still holding on, no problem. Before, if I tried to do this, I'd get about 3 to 4 seconds of holding power, and then it would drop. So I found myself having to hold pressure on the gripper close to keep things in place, which is not good. This is holding no problem, just like it was when we got this thing brand new. That was a quick, easy fix. Awesome. So, I'll show you too. So, now we have the safety up, but not losing any pressure. It's a pretty big rock. I think we solved our problem. It's still nice and tight in there. It's not moving. Well, it's rotating, but it's not letting go. Awesome. Thanks for watching, guys. We're fixed.